Hello everyone, welcome to Aptly Academy for Civil Services. I hope all of you are fit and fine, doing well for your upcoming prelims examination. Now to further catalyze your preparation, we have come up with this series on static portion for general studies, and in continuation to that, today's series is specifically from modern history for an important topic, that is Peasant Movement in India. This is a part one of the discussion. We'll be very soon coming up with the other topics in part two, covering the entire peasant movement of India, right? Now, this is something important for civil services examination and other state public service commission examination that will be appearing for, and it will further aid, and this video session will specifically aid and even act as a part of a revision video in your part of preparation and even help you to revise in a very short span of time. So without wasting much time, let's started with the part of discussion. And before I begin, I will give you the brief discussion on how the peasant movement of India has actually started, and then we'll proceed with each and every details of the movement that was actually there. So first, giving you the background, who were the peasant, what has led to this movement, and how they were actually suppressed by the British movement. So peasant, broadly बात करें, peasant were broadly representing the masses of landless agricultural laborer. They were the sharecropper, they were the teenage poor artisans and small and marginal cultivators. They people have faced a lot many changes with a huge part of taxation, which has ultimately made their livelihood situation more worse during the British India. Now, they have also has a close social interference with the socially deprived, such as scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and other backward classes and women. So these were actually the total part which can be categorized under the part of peasant at that point of time. Now, peasant bore the brunt of colonial exploitation in India. This is pretty evident with the part of things that has come across during the modern India. You must have read the standard book like Rajiv here, where you can specifically come up with the conclusion that how the exploitation was there and the depth of the explanation, the part of the dominance of the exploitation was such that peasants were actually finding it very troublesome. Now, their movement arose in a response to the aggressive British economy policies, which was rooted in mercantilism, which actually means that only profit and profit was the sole motive behind the trade, and they were actually making the part of exploitation with the Indian peasants. Now, the peasant struggle has emerged as a main force fighting directly with their own demand. Now, this is a basic background that how the thing has started and what has led to the peasant movement in our country. And before starting the discussion on each and every revolt which took place, let's understand the phases of the peasant movement on India. So there were basically three phases that started. The initial phase can be counted from 1857 till 1921. Before that also we had some important peasant movement that I'll be discussing in this session. So it was categorized with the sporadic growth with the peasant in the absence of a proper leadership. So during this tenure, the leadership for the peasant movement was not that great, and even the direction that need to be provided was absent. Now, the second phase was something that marked the emergence of the class of conscious peasant organization. The important people like Mahatma Gandhi has also direction and shaped the entire movement. Then we have post-independence, where the uninterrupted and continuity of the Agrarian movement continue. And even due to failure of the ruling party to resolve this, is the problem of the working and the ruler masses was actually excliberated, right? So this is the part of the phases of the Indian peasant movement. Now I'll be giving the detail of each and every movement that is specifically important from the prelims examination perspective. The first is Rangpur. This was there in 1783, right? So this is something which you have to take into consideration. From this time, UPSC can ask a question in prelims examination. So Rangpur Day, which actually occurred in 1783, is in the Rangpur district of Bengal. At present day, this is in Bangladesh, right? So make sure, do not confuse. At present day, this is in Bangladesh, in the northern Bangladesh, right? So this marked the significant protest with the obsessive revenue policy, which was actually there by the East India Company. So EIC has come up with the oppressive revenue policy, which was creating problem for a lot of peasants. The prevalent Ijjatdari system involved the contradictory Ijjatdars, that is called the revenue farmers, to pay the fixed revenue either annually or every 5 years for a specific period piece of land. So this is what was there. The peasants were actually not making profit. The profit share was so less and they were not able to share the part of their share, which was ultimately led to their more deprivation, right? So this is the thing, the part of thing has emerged in Rangpur. It exposed to the exploitative nature of the company's rule. It makes things more evident that how exploitative the company was, and some of the revenues reform altered the repression has even continued for a longer period. The rebellion is seen as the first major upsurge against the company in Bengal, because at before 1857, I think most of you must be aware, it was a company rule that actually exists. Post 1857, the East India Company was actually ruled out and the wholesale government come under the British power. So this was there in the Bengal, which is the present day in the north, Bangladesh. The rebellion has saw the unity between Hindu and Muslim, and it saw the formulation of permanent land settlement. So this is like post to a decay. अगर बात करें land settlement की, जो permanent land settlement है वो 1793 में लाई गई थी by Lord Cornwallis. So these are some of the important facts that you need to know, and specifically a question can be framed. Right? And moving ahead with the other important revolt, that is Indigo Revolt. The time and duration, the chronology is important, so make sure you take a note of timeline as well. This was there in 1859, 1860. So this revolt started in Bengal. It was a peasant movement against the exploitative nature of, basically for the practice of indigo planters. Now they were forced to come up with the part of indigo plantations, and the peasants suffered at the hand of traders and middlemen. Consequently, they have launched their non-cultivating indigo in Bengal. Now this particular movement was led by Digambara and Vishnu Viswas. So this is again important. The name, many a times there can be a direct question asking you about the details. This revolt was also known as Neel Bidroh. Bidroh is the Hindi language, which is specifically mean a revolt, right? So the indigo gave the birth to the political movement and even stimulated the part of settlement with the British rulers among the masses. So this was a movement which acted as a simulator for the part of other movement that took place in the country. And this particular event of Indigo Revolt was actually, forecasted as a play in Neer Darpan by Dinbandhu Mitra in 1860. This is very, very important, asked in multiple times in various state public service commission examination, and even UPSC has asked this question, related statement based question to this. Now Harish Chandra Mukherjee described the plight of peasant in Bengal and in its newspaper called as the Hindu Patriot. Now this factual information will be pretty relevant for prelims examination. Make sure you take a note of this. Now to address the issue, the government has actually come up with the Indigo Commissions which back their recommendation, and a notification to this was issued in 1860. Now further, there was a Pabna Rebellion from 1817 to 1880. This was there in Eastern Bengal. The landlord frequently enforced rent and land taxes for this was becoming the overburden and making more troublesome for the peasant. This is again in Eastern Bengal, the present day Bangladesh. Additionally, the peasants were denied with the opportunity to obtain the occupancy right under Act 10 of 1859, a provision which was specifically set for the peasant to get the benefit, but it was abrogated. Now in May 1873, the Agrarian League emerged by the Yusuf Sahai Pargana of the Pabna district, which is there in East Bengal. I told you the present day, this can be there in the central Bangladesh. So make sure you cannot get confused with the present day. Now the rent strike were organized. The fund were raised through the struggle spread in the Patna, which is the other district of the East Bengal. This is not the Patna in Bihar, but this is the Patna in Bangladesh, mostly central Bangladesh. It discontinued, the part of the rebellion discontinued in 1850 when the government of Bengal come up with the Tendency Act of 1885 and enhanced the occupancy right. The rebellion further was led by the Shah Chandra Shah, then Sambul Pal, Kodi Mohla, and supported by B.C. Chatterjee and R.C. Dutt. So they were some of the people, the brain behind the rebellion, and they have actually acted as a motivator to them. Now moving ahead, the other important was Deccan Riots. This was in 1875. The Riots of the Deccan of the Western India have suffered the heavy taxation under the Raitwari system. They were forced to pay the taxes, and it was making more troublesome for their livelihood that they were not even able to save for their daily basic needs. In 1857, the peasants of Maharashtra, some parts of Pune, Tara, and Ahmednagar district was again increasing the agrarian distress. Right now, what happened subsequent to that? That the Deccan peasant have come up with the uprising mainly against this was against the excess of Marwari and Gujarati moneylenders. So they were mostly the people who were actually being benefited. Now riots faced heavy taxation under the Rayatwari system with approximately 50% increase in the land revenue in 1867. Now in 1874 they organized a social boycott against the moneylenders, and Government of India succeeded in repressing the movement. As a conciliatory measure, they have come up with an important relief act which is known as Deccan Agriculture Relief Act that was passed in 1879. Now, moving ahead with the other important segment where Gandhiji has come to play an important role was a Champaran Satyagraha in 1970. Now the tenants farmer were actually forced by the British planter to cultivate, part of the 3/20th part, right? This is 3/20th part of a bigger land holding. This was also known as Teen Kathia system, right? So they were forced to plant indigo in this much percentage. Now 3/20th is close to 15%, where it was obligatory for them to come up with the indigo plantation in 15% of the total land. So this started in Champaran in Bihar, present day Bihar, and the operation were there by the European planters that forced the part of the growth for indigo, and it was specifically meant to sell and make more profit out of the indigo plantation, which was hugely demanded by the European countries. Now in 1917, what has happened that Mahatma Gandhi reached out Champaran and began to conduct a detailed inquiry into the condition of peasantry. In 1917, the government there at that point of time, which has come up with the British government, has come up with the inquiry committee, and Gandhiji was one of the members. Now this is an important vital point for prelims examination. There can be a statement based question where Gandhiji was a member or not. Now the Champaran Agrarian Relief Act 1918 was liberated for tenants for a special imposed by the indigo planters, and Teen Kathia system was abolished based on the recommendations by the committee. Now this is again important. Teen Kathia system पे already questions आ चुकी हैं prelims और means दोनों में, so make sure you are aware of this. If not asked, there can be other question twist and turn can be asked, right? Now Kheda Satyagraha, the farmer of the Kheda which is there in Gujarat, faced the crop failure, right? And they were actually demanding the remissions of revenue for a year, which will actually compensate the part of suffering that they had, and the colonial government ignored their concern. Even the concern was not addressed, and they were forced to make the payment. Now the Gandhiji come into this picture, and he has advised the peasant to withhold the payment until their demand for remission was made. So Gandhiji has categorically said that you have to protest until and unless the remission was actually being given to you or people. Now here one event was important, that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel became the follower of Gandhiji during the Kheda movement. Now this is pretty important for prelims and for general understanding that at which particular movement Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel become the follower of Gandhiji. So this is definitely the Kheda Satyagraha 1980. Now the other important movement was a Kissan Sabha movement in 1920. The majority of cultivators were subject to high rents, and even the part of summary eviction, illegal levies were there. The renewal fees were charged from the peasant and farmers. Now the farmers were mainly they were from the whole room activists, the Kissan Sabha, they organized in UP. So there were efforts which was made by the Kissan Sabha to unite all the peasant and the part of agriculture community was there and come up with a strong force. So the United Province, the present day Uttar Pradesh, the Kissan Sabha set up in 1980 by Gauri Shankar Mishra and Indranath Trivedi. The name is becoming important. The people associated, many a times UPSC tend to ask a direct question, so you have to at least know some of the basic and prominent names. The other prominent leader include Jinguri Singh, Dorpal Singh and Baba Ramchandra. Right? Now moving ahead, the other is Eka Movement. This started in 1921. The peasant has discontent. They have resuffered some of the northern district of the United Province, the present day Uttar Pradesh. This was there in Hardoi, Baricha and Sitapur. Right? The protest again charged the higher part of the record rent and high. So the hike of the overall rent has come up with a discomfort to the farmers or the peasant, and they actually made a protest to this. So the Eka movement was led by the member of Parsi and Ahir caste, which was there in Hardoi, Sitapur district. So three district has been categorically mentioned here. The grassroots leadership for the Eka movement come up with the part of Madarsi Pasi and even the lower caste leaders and many other small jamindars. So it can be asked that who were the actual participants of Eka movement. So you should be aware of these details. In 1922, repression by British authorities was brought the movement to end, and this particular movement was actually been discontinued by the forces of the British. Now, Mapila movement 1921. So Mapila is basically, the Muslim tenants which was there from the Malamar region in the Kerala. They faced the grievances as an insecure tenure, high rents and obsessive fee largely by the Hindu landlords. So this was a part of, you can say, the discrimination which was based on the people. The Mapilas were expressed with their resentment against the operations of the landlords. And this, under the part of uprising, has reported to the death of around 10,000 people. It's a number that was huge at that point of time, and many Hindus were forced to convert to Islam. Right? Now, the leaders of the Khilafat non-cooperation movement like Gandhiji, Shaukat Ali, Muhammad Azad, Maulana Azad, and Mapila were actually addressing the meeting, and Mapila movement merged with the Khilafat agitation. So this is the part where you need to understand which agitation merged at what point of time, and even if you look at the timeline, precisely timeline will be again important because वहाँ पे आप connection establish कर पाएंगे किस particular event के बाद कौन सी event हुई है. कई बार prelims examination में आपको year के साथ match करने के लिए event दी जाती है, तो this will definitely help. Now, Bardoli Satyagraha, this is at 1928. The Bardoli Taluka, which is there in the Surat district of Gujarat, was part of in 1926, where the authorities decided to increase the land revenue by 30%. Now, this percentage is pretty significant. There can be question which asks you like 15%, 10%. Nowadays, it is important that some factual information must be known to you. This is pretty relevant for prelims. Now, to overcome this part, Bardoli Inquiry Committee was set up, which was founded. The revenue hike was unjustified, and they recommended to reduce it, the enhancement to 6.06 itself. Right? Now, in February 1926, Vallabhbhai Patel was called to lead the movement, and the women of Bardoli gave them the title of Sardar. Very, very important. Many student or aspirant tend to confuse this title of Sardar, which was conferred to Vallabhbhai Patel, was there by Mahatma Gandhi. No, it was actually by the women of Bardoli. So make sure you take a note of this. And Bardoli Satyagraha Patrika was actually brought to mobilize public opinion. So these were some of the important movement, the peasant movement, pre-independent part of the thing which we had. उसके बाद जो और बची हुई जो part of agitations है उसको next series में cover करेंगे. Now, an important message for all the aspirants. We are organizing prelims mirror. 2 tests has already been there. So this was on 25th and 17th of March. The upcoming 2 tests are there with you, which is at 7th of April and 28th of April. If you are one who have not registered, make sure to avail that benefit. This will definitely give you an edge over the upcoming prelims examination, and this mock test will actually ensure to judge yourself that at what level and what is the level of preparation that you are having. So make sure to register yourself and take the benefit of All India free mock test. So this was all about for this session. We'll meet in the next session with part 2 with some of the other important topics relevant for the examination. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying tuned.